Hello, hello, boys and girls. It's going to be a big one today, so buckle up. And for our breaking news, GeorgeNotFound was evicted from the Dream Team residence and is now promoted to Dream's ex-friend after caitibugzz came out with their accusation video. Of course, that Dream trusts the accuser over his friends, always. So GeorgeNotFound is no more. Of course, this is not true. I think, at least. I don't think that Dream kicked him out of or anything, but I think it's funny that he always apologizes for the smallest thing. So saying that his best friend touched the girl without explicit consent must be heart-shattering. Anyway, and at this point, Twitter thinks that GeorgeNotFound is Epstein reborn for cuddling and touching a girl. So he came out with an apology written by none other than Dream's astrophysicist. Let's hear it.
Recently, a streamer named caitibugzz went live and told a story involving me about sexual assault. So in this stream, I'm going to be addressing it. I was originally planning on doing this all live, and that's why I originally tweeted saying that I would be live the day that it happened, but I simply did not feel comfortable doing it live, needed to make sure that I had all the details in place, and just wanted to make sure it was all perfect as it happened.
Much like caitibugzz, George also scripted the video, and for all the drama that has been happening lately, finally we get some screenshots. Scripting videos in situations like this, it's okay for me. George just wants to get his point across quickly before his 8-year-old audience loses interest and starts calling him Epstein 2 minutes into the video before he even begins to defend himself. This was the culture he helped to plant, so now he's just finally seeing the fruits of his labor. Also, a Subway Surfers video on the side would help a little bit with the engagement and keeping the people watching until the end, but that's just me.
Okay, so this is my side of the story of the 2 times that I ever interacted with caitibugzz in real life. First time that I met her, it was in Dream's hotel room at VidCon. To give context about Dream's hotel room, essentially it was a bigger room than average. It's not just a bed in a room like a typical hotel room is. Essentially it's there was a living room, there was a table, and the bedroom was kind of separated from it. And for this reason, we used his hotel room essentially as a place where all of our friends could hang out in.
Here we just get confirmation that they met in the hotel room, quite big hotel room at that, but nothing much to be said here. I don't see any point of sharing this besides the fact that the room was big.
First night that I actually met Katie, I was with Dream in his hotel room, and Dream was in a group chat with 5 other people. These 5 people included caitibugzz, her best friend, and 3 other of her friends. Now, these 5 people, they were at an official VidCon after party, and they wanted Dream to go meet up with them and hang out with them. But Dream actually didn't want to hang out with them, and the reason is because at the time he was wearing his Dream mask a lot, and he felt uncomfortable wearing it because it's a whole mask on your face. So he just didn't want to go to the party particularly. He even suggested that they shouldn't come because he was assuming that they were having more fun where they were. They reassured him that that wasn't the case. They were bored and they wanted him to come.
Katie and her friends really wanted a piece of that Minecraft cloud and weren't having a lot of fun at the VidCon party, so they decided to dip to meet their favorite creator, Dream. George gives us screenshots of a chat where Dream was to confirm that they wanted to go to the hotel. This is just confirmation of how they met. It's just so weird why these people think that they get preferential treatment. If you get invited to a room of somebody who you barely know, what are you expecting to happen? This is not a MrBeast video. You won't get $10,000. You'll very likely just be essayed.
So now these 5 people are trying to come to the hotel, but the problem with that is to get into the hotel, you need to have a VidCon creator badge. And only 2 of the people in the group chat actually had this badge. That was Katie and her best friend. So eventually what happened is Katie and 2 of her other friends came to Dream's hotel room. This was my first time actually meeting them in real life. I didn't even know who they were before meeting them. And then we essentially just were playing drinking games in the hotel room. We were just having fun, talking with each other, nothing crazy in particular. Now, one thing Katie said retrospectively, looking back at the scenario, is that I was flirting with her throughout the night and that she was uncomfortable with this because of our age difference. At the time, she was 18 and I was 26. She actually assumed I didn't know her age because she had never said it. But then later, I had actually DM'd her on Instagram. And because of this, she says that it is confirmed that I know her age. To give some context to this scenario and to why I didn't know her age, my perspective of things is that I am with people that are over the age of 21. In a scenario where we are doing things that people that are over the age of 21 are doing, like drinking. And also the people that came from an event where they had very heavy security. This was an official VidCon afterparty. I've gone back and reviewed texts from the time, and there was actually a picture where it was shown that they had this 21 plus wristband on one of their wrists. So from my perspective, it's a bunch of 21 plus year olds hanging out. I have no reason to think otherwise.
George also confirms that he thought that they were 21-year-olds hanging out and he didn't see her Instagram bio, and backs it up by talking about VidCon parties being heavily secured and people under the age of 21 not being able to get in. The thing here is, bro, she's 18! Yes, of course the age gap is a little big, but still she's 18. Where I live, the legal age of drinking is 18, so I probably am seeing this from a different perspective, but George is British. His perspective is the same. The legal age for drinking in Britain is 18. caitibugzz is American, so the legal age for drinking there is 21, but she is still an adult at 18 regardless. This arises the problem that Katie was engaging in illegal activity, drinking. She was drinking under the age of 21. Regardless of Katie's illegal activities, she's still 18, aka an adult, so why the hell is George talking about it? My man, there was a line in the sand drawn at 18. He didn't cross it. Yeah, of course that Katie is an adult for partying, drinking, under the age of 21, but when shit hits the fan, she's a poor, defenseless, freshly 18-year-old. Bruh, miss me with that double standard, and I feel bad for her. She cried a lot in the video she made, which shows us she's really hurting about the whole situation. She really was a victim of her own actions. That's called being an adult. Fuck around and find out. Either you are an adult or you are a child.
The second time that we hung out was the next night after this. So we wake up the next day, we do VidCon stuff. After we're done, that's the final day of VidCon. So VidCon is now technically over, but we have one more night in the hotel before we need to leave the next morning. Dream messaged me, I'm bored, can you come to my room? Let's hang out, essentially. That's what we did. And again, the same scenario happens from the night before. They are trying to get him to go out to another party that they were at. Same story, Dream didn't want to go, but was open to them coming here. And again, that is what happened. But this time, their friends were actually all able to get in. I don't know how they did it, but Katie, her best friend, and 3 other of her friends ended up coming to the room, which had me, Dream, and my online friend that I just met. So 8 people total in this room at this point.
Second night, the groupies were really pushing for Dream to come, but he didn't want to go. So instead, they had to go themselves to try and meet in the hotel room. Not weird at all. There were 8 people as opposed to 5, so Katie lied here. Or maybe she didn't remember very well since she was drunk at the time. And we know that Katie and her friends were drunk. Keep in mind that they chose to go to the hotel room. No one forced them, and Dream even asked if they weren't having more fun at the party. They really wanted Minecraft Cloud that bad. They wanted him to get out of the mattress to see what the point of the mask is. You can't just make this stuff up, guys. Someday Dream will come out against his fans for forcing him to do stuff he doesn't want. Leave the guy alone. You can force him to go to the party without consent. Man just doesn't want to leave the mattress. Leave him alone. And also don't go to his room at 3 AM and drink the grimace shake. You'll just be asking for trouble.
So something I actually want to point out before I continue with the rest of the story is the way that she phrases some things in her story. Instead of saying that her and the rest of her friends actually wanted to come to the hotel to hang out with us, she said that one friend was invited by Dream, but she didn't want to go alone. So then they decided to go along with her because they were willing to go anywhere. I just think it's important to note already that the story is slightly different from the reality of it, and I'll be mentioning this a few more times throughout the rest of the story. You can see in these screenshots from the text at the time that they were all trying to come to the hotel, and it wasn't just oh, we're willing to follow her, essentially. They were all in the group chat and part of the discussion to go to the hotel.
So here we just get more confirmation the group was actively all trying to get into the hotel. In the DMs, they even are plotting to give somebody a pass in order to get into the hotel, so this was clearly planned. Everyone seems happy here. The groupies get to meet their idol, they get to have girls in the hotel room.
Another thing that she talks about is how we insisted that she drinks more and that we insisted on playing drinking games when this isn't the case. Again, they had already been drinking at this party before they arrived to the hotel room, and they had also been the ones that were asking to play the drinking games. So instead of us insisting that we play it, they were actually the ones that were asking us. And you can see that in the screenshots here. They had actually texted multiple times, specifically wanting to play this drinking game that we had played the night before. And at this point, I was pretty drunk, and so was basically everyone in this room.
George also shares that they didn't force the girls to drink alcohol, like Katie said. The girls were actually the ones who wanted to play drinking games. Keep in mind that everyone was drunk, so there were 8 already drunk people in the hotel room, all playing drinking games. No one forced anyone, and no one was encouraged to do anything here. There were no guns involved. Everyone is choosing what to do.
So at this point, we then moved to the couch, and I sit next to Katie. She also says, looking back on the scenario, that she confused her nerves for excitement when I sit next to her. But again, at this moment in time, everything was friendly. Nothing sexual had happened. I'm just literally sitting next to her on the couch. And during this, she was laughing, smiling. She gave no indication that she was uncomfortable with me sitting this close to her. She also mentions that she was thinking about my age and that I was a lot older than her. Again, she was 18 and I was 26 at the time. And again, to clarify, I actually didn't know how old she was, despite her claiming that I did, just because it was in her bio. And it was clear to anyone there that she was not uncomfortable with me sitting next to her.
Just more confirmation that everyone was okay with the two of them sitting together. George also reinforces the fact that he was not aware of Katie's age, which again is completely irrelevant. She was 18, goddammit! If we need to move the age of consent for Minecraft YouTubers to 30, they should also not be drinking until 30, and probably these people should be considered minors until then, since Katie clearly doesn't want to take accountability for her own actions, and George keeps reinforcing for some reason that she was only 18! She was only an adult, guys. I didn't know that she was an adult, guys. These people are seriously out here drinking and partying and then act like children when the bad stuff finally and inevitably happens. Also, it's like they have no situational awareness. No one can seem to pick up on obvious clues. George was messaging Katie on Insta. He was actively trying to get with her. How can someone miss this? By George's testimony, everything seems to be okay. Everyone's having a good time, even though George sits next to Katie in the couch. She doesn't make great efforts to move away from him and doesn't give any indication that this is uncomfortable.
Next, she says, this is a quote, resorted to playing games on her phone to avoid the awkward situation. Now, I just don't see how this is the case. She's implying that she is using her phone to essentially escape, such an awkward scenario that she's in. But that's just not how it happened. And this is why. To add further context to this moment, we were all actually sitting on the couch that was in the hotel room, playing this game on her phone, having fun with the game. So I don't see how, she resorted to it and was, using it in that context. She wasn't being awkward at all. There was no sense of uncomfortability from her. She was laughing and playing with everyone. We actually continued to send each other high score updates even weeks after the event.
I cut this part heavily, but I kept the message the same. Basically, George didn't pick up the clues that Katie wasn't comfortable. They were all playing the game together. She was laughing and playing with everyone else. George was even surprised to find out how she phrased it, making it seem like she resorted to play the game to avoid awkwardness and uncomfortability. So either George and everyone else in the room was terrible at picking up clues, or Katie was bad at sending out signals. Either way, you decide.
During this, me and Katie were at the far end of the couch and we were cuddling together. We had been cuddling for, I'd say, around an hour at this point, playing the game, talking, and just having fun. And for clarity, I had my hand around her waist above her clothes. So with her statement where she's saying that she's resorting to playing games on her phone, I just don't really understand it. And I think that the picture that she's painting is really dark, when in reality she seemed very happy with the situation, was having a good time.
Consent Not Found also provides more clarity on the fact that he had been cuddling with Katie for about an hour and she seemed pretty happy, and his hand was around her waist. Completely normal behavior for two people that don't know each other. Still, Katie didn't send out any major signals to warn out the oncoming belly rubs of doom. So George is completely Ohio-raising Katie, and it's working pretty well. It went from strangers to cuddling to belly rubbing, all in the span of one night. Nice! You know how it is. Minecraft YouTubers have that predator reese. Sure!
She said that she had answered a question about her age during a drinking game, and we were talking about sex, and that she admitted to everyone in the room that she was 18 and a virgin at the time. I just don't remember this happening. I'm not saying this to just pretend like it didn't happen. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I did not hear it happen. We're not just all sitting down and not moving. It's a chaotic environment. I could have been getting a drink. I could have been talking to someone else. I just did not know that that was said.
George again brings up the fact that he didn't know her age and didn't listen when she said that she was a consenting adult. Again, don't know. We have worldwide laws to prevent child diddling for a reason. No law was crossed here, so why is George defending himself again? He could have or not listened to her sharing her age. It's still irrelevant. I know I keep harping on this point, but it's just something so pointless and gets brought up so many times. She made a grown-up decision to get drunk. She was and is a grown-up. 18 is adult! At this point, it just looks like Katie is mistaking regret for trauma. She was an adult drinking that made a lot of bad decisions that led up to the situation that she was cuddling with George, and she regretted it afterwards. This doesn't mean that she couldn't have gotten some sort of trauma, but it was trauma for her own actions, the actions of an adult. Also, they were cuddling. People are treating George like Epstein, and the room was the island. Did Katie think of herself as a victim, or did she decide afterwards? And you might be saying, Shifter, you're just victim blaming. Stop! She's a victim! Listen, call her whatever you want. People should be held accountable for their own actions. I'm not stopping bullets for anyone. She was and is an adult. She made their decisions. They were not friends. They were strangers. You can't go to strangers' rooms. You don't drink with strangers. You don't have personal talks with strangers. You don't let strangers cuddle you. This stuff you learn when you are starting to speak. My mom and dad taught me this when I was a baby.
As I mentioned before, we had previously been cuddling on this couch for around an hour, but I did place my hand on her waist under her shirt. The way it's phrased makes it sound like it just happened out of nowhere, when in reality we had been cuddling for over an hour at this point, and it was not out of nowhere. It was also around half an hour until I started moving my hand further up, and the way it's phrased just makes it seem like it happened pretty instantly and pretty quickly. There was nothing quick about it. It was very slow, and I was very cautious about it and making sure that she was comfortable throughout the process. Me and Katie were very touchy, very cuddly, and very slowly got more intimate.
He also talks about having his hand on her waist under her clothes. He defends it with they were cuddling for over an hour and he was careful. George was edging so hard not to go any faster. This was something that happened throughout a long period of time. He didn't actually go straight for it. Allegedly. He also explains that he always has been cautious with consent. He should honestly start flat out asking it with the brain power of these people. Excuse me, miss? Chuckles. Is it okay if I place my hand on your waist and and start slowly making my way onto your breast? Do you blushes give me consent to do it? Please?
Again, the quote that she said, he disguised it with a simple, "Are you ticklish?" I coughed out a no. She's implying that it's with malicious intent, and that she coughed out a no would also imply that I should be able to tell that she was uncomfortable with it. She says, later, he made a game out of my embarrassment where he would touch me in certain areas to make me lose the game I was playing. Now, I actually remember this quite vividly. I remember she was playing the game, and there were parts where it would be very easy to lose if you were distracted. And she's right, I did do that. There were points where she was playing the game and she was at a point where it was easy for her to mess up, and I would, for example, tickle her or like squeeze her, and when I did this, she would laugh, she would turn around and smile at me, or she would play fight with me because I had just made her lose the game. She also says how, quote, I didn't speak or move. I remember being afraid to even breathe. I stayed there for a while, hoping my stillness could make me disappear. Now, to reiterate, anytime that I did this, it was met with her either smiling, laughing, play fighting with me, and there was no reason for me to believe that she was uncomfortable with it. I don't believe that silence is consent.
My guy, you just don't go no, I'm not ticklish. Leave. At this point, Katie is cuddling a stranger for over an hour and is tickling her for her to lose the game. George confirms the allegations. He also refutes her, saying that she was not moving and speaking, which she was actually laughing, talking back, and play fighting. This is all he say, she say to me. There is no way for me to confirm any of this. I was not a fly on the wall spying on them. It's just George's view of the events.
I also want to comment on how she said that she had to stand up after many minutes for it to stop. She did get up multiple times throughout the night. For example, to go to the bathroom, to get a drink. Also, when her friends left, she got up to say goodbye to them, and she would come back to the same scenario. I also just want to point out that her best friend was here during this whole process, then afterwards did leave. And I think it is important to note that she made the choice to stay behind for many hours more. And as I mentioned before, she did get up, say goodbye to them, and came back.
It seems that by George's recounting of events, Katie got up multiple times throughout the night and it never came across her mind to just go away or sit somewhere else, and she also could have left with her friends. Still, she chose to go back to the stranger to get further cuddling. We are in a situation that the victim, Katie, chose to stay. Like I've said a million times, she had all the chances to leave and chose not to. This is what I was referring to earlier when I said that people should be held accountable for their own actions. No one forced Katie to stay. She had multiple chances to leave and avoid further trauma. Instead, no, for some odd reason, she chose to endure it. So, recapping the whole situation really quickly, caitibugzz, an adult, chose to get drunk, cuddled for a long time with the stranger, never fought back, never chose to leave, and in the end, endured trauma, of course. Just to what extent exactly are caitibugz's actions George's fault?
And it's at this time that Katie says that, this is a quote, "I went to leave, and the older guy then decided to leave too." This is phrased in a way that makes me look kind of creepy, to be honest. She's basically saying she left, so I decided to leave too, which is not the case. What actually happened is Dream had decided he was too tired and was going to bed. So the night was over and we all left.
George talks about the night being over, so everyone left, which was him and Katie. In Katie's versions of events, she left, but according to George, the night came to a close because Dream was tired and wanted to go to bed. "Party is over, boys. Off you go to your rooms. Dream has very important sleeping to do." I can't comment on this. I wasn't actually there. The important part is that Katie had multiple chances to leave earlier and chose to stay for a long time.
She then goes on to tell a story about the elevator and how I joked about it being broken to try get her to go in with me. So Katie actually had her own hotel room on the same floor as Dream. So she actually didn't have to take the elevator. She walked me to the elevator when she didn't have to and said goodnight to me, which was nice of her. I did joke with her about coming in the elevator by pretending that it was broken. I went into the elevator, the doors closed, and I would press the doors open button to make it open again. I did this a few times, and she didn't go along with it, which I respectfully took, obviously, and ended up just going down to my room.
Yo, funny guy here. Oh my god, funny guy. Elevator broken. Ha ha ha. There was an elevator scene, according to George. Our hotel room was in the same floor, so she chose to walk her alleged accuser to the elevator, which sounds a little strange to me. George didn't manage to get her into the elevator to continue with his cuddling and elevator tickling, so he just went down on his own to his room.
But also I think these comments are her looking back on the night and not her actual feelings at the time. And that's essentially the end of the story. This is actually the last time I've seen her in person, was just as those elevator doors closed. We messaged for a bit after, through Instagram DMs and Snapchat, and the way that we talked to each other was always pretty banterous. For example, after the first night that we hung out, but before the second, she'd actually texted me and said, "You better not be in Dream's room tonight or I'm going to shoot your leg." Obviously, she's not going to shoot my leg. It's just, we're just messing with each other. And I'd actually responded to her and said, "Well, guess what? I'm actually here right now." And yeah, after this, we texted for a bit, sometimes daily, sometimes we would take a few days break, even a few weeks at some point. And at some point after VidCon, we were actually both in London at the same time. And she let me know this through her DMs. Now, I will say she didn't come out outright and say, "I'm in London." But she did say that she had gone to a place that was known to be a London thing. And I commented on that and asked what she was doing in London.
So they kept messaging afterwards, according to George, to me, and honestly, the messages look pretty weird. Then again, I don't usually talk to people like that. They talk about shooting legs, paying for messages. I don't get them. Seems like to me that Katie is already pretty mad at George in the last messages, at least, talking about paying for the conversation and calling him gay. Then again, it could be just George not being good at reasoning Katie through messages. George's recalling of events basically stop here. He just quickly points out that Katie regrets that night, which I also think it's the case. He also refers to the point that her friend group doesn't really like Dream and George's friend group anymore, so being in an environment where they constantly talking bad about them could have changed her mind about the experience and changed the way that she felt. At the time, George says that she looked and acted like she was having a good time, and he's very sorry in the case that she didn't want to make her go through a situation like that. Regardless of how she feels now and how she felt at the time, caitibugzz, an 18-year-old adult, chose to get drunk, go clubbing, party, go to a stranger's hotel room, cuddle with him, never gave any sign to either George or her friends, had multiple chances to leave, yet she didn't, and got touched and didn't make any effort to de-escalate the event. So I'll have to leave you guys to decide and make up your own conclusions on the whole event. relevant. I see a lot of people, mainly girls, telling us to stop mansplaining and support them instead. The thing is, if they've have listened, most of these situations would have not happened. We tell you what to do and what to be worried about because we know what other men think. When a stranger keeps sending you messages, it doesn't want to be your friend. If a stranger invites you to their room, they don't want to be your friend. They want to smash! So take this mansplaining advice, and what happened to caitibugzz will never happen to you. I'd only add that caitibugzz is still a victim of her own actions. Her trauma was self-inflicted, and her victimness, if that's even a word, was out of her own actions. She wasn't coerced into any of this. If so, it was by her friends. Minecraft YouTubers and fans should be accompanied by adults until the age of 30. This includes no drinking, driving, or making decisions. Don't go to strangers' houses. Don't accept anything, let alone alcohol from strangers. Don't let the stranger touch you. And most importantly of all, don't forget to take your normal pills so you don't end up like these man children. And with this being said, this was me taking a look at George's side of the story. Leave a like if you've liked the video, a dislike if you've disliked it. Leave a comment down below if you think that George essayed caitibugzz or not, and why. Subscribe if you are new to the channel, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye!